Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome back into the Margaret McLean Show, where we are live streaming the Lindsay Clancy trial, which might be wrapping up next week. And it is quite a trial. I have to say good morning to everybody in the chat. I really enjoy starting my day with you guys. Well, good morning, Lisa. You're one of the first ones in the chat. I see it's filling up. I always like to give a recap of the day before. And of course, we had a shortened day yesterday, which we didn't expect. I believe one of the witnesses hadn't shown up yet. Good morning, Maui. How are you? It's so nice to see you. I love saying the good morning, so bear with me if you're new here or just listening. So we have a very intelligent chat here. We are also, I think for the most part, we are really willing to listen to each other's opinions. And they are really divided in this case because some people think Lindsay is guilty. So Lindsay Clancy, if you're just joining us and don't know much about the case, that's okay. She is a Duxbury mother of three. She worked for Mass General Hospital delivering babies, and she had sort of the all-American life, according to one of the witnesses. However, she, according to the record, she was suffering from severe postpartum mental illness, and she unfortunately admitted to the acts of unaliving her three children with exercise bans. So it's a horrible story. But she's claiming the insanity defense, saying that she was in the throes of psychosis to such an extent she was hearing command hallucination voices commanding her to commit the acts. And as a result, the argument is she wasn't criminally responsible at the time the acts were committed. Good morning, Smiley in New England. It's a Thursday. Good morning, Susie QFL. Yeah, I'm going to be in and out a little bit today, too, I have to say. I love the chat, and we're going to keep this going. So I'd like to also get ideas of what you'd like to hear next, because I enjoy live streaming. I'm finally sort of, getting the equipment, and you're not. So guess what I had to do last night, just before we get into the recap? I'm not exaggerating. I bought a brand new modem, state of the art, really good, supposedly. And I was on the phone with 3 hours from this nice woman from Egypt, believe it or not, trying to set it up. But it didn't work, and the equipment didn't work. So we had to go back to the old modem, which is fine, which I'm using now. But I really, if I'm doing this, I really need state of the art. But anyway, now a technician has to come, all that. It's just, technology is such a pain, right? Good morning, Michelle. Nice to see you too. Yes, we have the best chat, and I'd like to keep it going. And then, also feel free. I'm serious. Feel free to criticize me, or even a private message. Let me know if I'm like the prosecutor, the Beau prosecutor, if I'm saying too much, or some of these place card words, because they become a habit and you don't hear yourself. So I want to try to be as good as I can be. You know what I mean? Oh, that was a placeholder right there. So let's go back. Mob of people outside the court today. I know I was going to get in yesterday. I think I'm going to try to get in Monday. Good morning, Judy. Good morning. I hope that I can get in. It's sounding like it's going to be harder and harder. And I do want to be here to listen, and during those court breaks, provide the legal analysis, especially next week, especially during opening statements and closing arguments, because it's harder. If I'm in court, I can't be live streaming, obviously. I mean, the stream will be up and running, but I can't be providing my legal analysis. So, Judy, you see the mob. Wow. So you guys must be watching it on television. I don't think you're on the courthouse. Wow. That's really interesting. So I've just been getting ready, putting my makeup on and all that stuff. So I didn't watch television to see the mob. You guys must be seeing it on the morning news. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about yesterday. We heard from defense forensic psychologist, Dr. Paul Zeisel. I thought he was a very good witness for the defense. He completed his testimony after facing pretty rigorous, decent cross-examination after a rocky start by the prosecution. Dr. Zeisel firmly reiterated his professional opinion that Lindsay Clancy was suffering from bipolar disorder with postpartum psychosis on January 24th, 2023, when these acts were committed, the criminal acts. And he testified that she completely lacked the capacity to appreciate the wrongfulness of her actions due to a mental defect. And that mental defect, of course, is the bipolar and the psychosis combined. So Zeisel detailed, this was interesting, facilitating a speakerphone call between Lindsay and her husband, Pat, from her hospital bed just about a week after the tragedy, once the tubes were taken out. And during that call, Lindsay explicitly confessed, she told Patrick that she heard a male voice ordering her to K the children and then take her own life. There was some of us talked about this in the chat. She wanted to reach out to Patrick to see how he was doing. Of course, he's not going to be doing well. He found his children, and she knows that. She remembers what she did, which I think is another interesting thing about psychosis. And usually my experience with it, with a very close family friend, she can't remember what she did during psychosis. But we all thought that was kind of weird that she wasn't crying hysterically or saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But then on the flip side, people have said, well, maybe she was heavily medicated still. She might have been, because she's just coming off of serious surgery too. And of course, she probably has antipsychotic meds in her. So who knows? So we also learned that from Dr. Zeisel that psychosis, severe psychosis, doesn't lower your intellectual functioning, but it would require a lot of control to mask certain symptoms of psychosis. So the more demanding the voice, he said, the harder it is to resist. He explained that she would be able to drive, for example, and she'd be able to talk on the phone, possibly text, build a snowman. And this is where it's a gray area for a lot of people. Of course, the prosecution is trying to show that she was very rational. She was able to hold a conversation that on the day that she committed these acts. She had phone calls with people. Her voice wasn't off. She could answer questions. But the Dr. Zeisel explained, yeah, you can be in psychosis and act this way. So that's up to the jury whether to believe him or not. He also testified that Lindsay never acted on those voices before. She sought help instead. So Zeisel explained some of her symptoms. I thought he did a good job with this. He talked about her depression. She felt flat, crying, anxiety, nervousness, feelings that she was withdrawn, tired, heavy, without energy. She had issues with personal hygiene. She was hearing things that weren't there. She was in a disassociated state, hypomania, racing thoughts, busy brain. She thought that her brain was damaged, and she felt restless, extreme insomnia. And he's getting all this from the 35 hours or so that he sat with her and interviewed her, which was a long time, plus from his review of the medical records and speaking with her friends and family and colleagues. She also was restless and had very extreme insomnia. Based on all of that, he formed the opinion that she had a mental disease or defect. You need that under Massachusetts law. So that's ringing the bell on that. And, the big part of the insanity defense here. So she had the mental disease and defect that she had was bipolar with postpartum psychosis. Therefore, she couldn't conform her behavior to the rule of law and couldn't distinguish right from wrong. And that was what the doctor opined yesterday. The witness directly addressed what the jury may say that the jury is going to be thinking about Lindsay Clancy. Was she able to appreciate the wrongfulness of her acts due to mental illness? So that's going to be a question from the jury. And they did just hear from an expert on that, and an expert who testified quite well. So prosecutors after a rocky start, as usual, a lot of people are saying the prosecutors aren't that great. And I have to agree with that. They've made some fatal mistakes, especially talking about the mortal sin. That was, again, we went through that. It's one of the biggest mistakes I've seen. My understanding is Reddington did not ask for a mistrial because he didn't want to have to start the trial all over again. But on appeal, that could be a problem because you have to ask for a mistrial based on, he should have asked for that at sidebar. You can't wait till the end of the trial to ask for that. So prosecutors heavily challenged Lindsay's mental clarity and intent during cross-examination with this expert. For example, they pointed out that she didn't ask about her children immediately upon her hospital admission, and Dr. Zeisel strongly pushed back. He explained that Clancy was severely over-medicated, suffered from severe brain fog, and felt like her brain was completely broken at that point. He emphasized, looking right at the jury, that she was not faking. That's his opinion. So then we have the issue that the prosecution brought up, and I think it's important. We've talked about it. She never told her medical providers that she heard voices before, just intrusive voices that she wanted to die. So those negative voices or intrusive thoughts were so loud, according to Zeisel, that she thought others could hear them. And then I thought it was interesting that the prosecution asked this question during cross-examination. What kind of voice was she hearing throughout all this period? Was it a male's voice? Like, she claimed a male's voice commanded her to unalive the children and herself. And the Dr. Zeisel said she didn't really specify. And that struck me because the doctor, wouldn't he have asked after 35 or so hours of being with her? I think that would be an important question to ask. Was it your voice? Was it a woman's voice? Was it that same man's voice? But he was very hazy here, and I think that goes to his credibility. Some juror will remember that, I'm sure. Also, the prosecution pointed out that Lindsay didn't do enough when she was hearing those voices. She should have told her doctors, and that's what we've also said in the chat. All in all, thinking about it last night, lots of times I'll think about it, and I do think the expert was very good. And another thing that the prosecution brought out was on the anniversary of the kids' birthdays and the anniversary of their deaths, Lindsay was at the Tewksbury Hospital kind of going about her routine. She was playing games and dominoes and talking with, just sort of socializing. So the prosecution brought that up, trying to give the jury the idea that this woman felt no remorse, or possibly that maybe that mental hospital isn't so bad after all, and they have to, because maybe this woman deserves jail for what she did. So, planting certain ideas in the jurors' minds. So the Dr. Zeisel emphasized that she's well-liked on the ward. Her family comes to visit her almost every day. They bring her dinner. They have support. So that they're trying to emphasize to the jury that, listen, this woman is a good woman deep down. She's got a lot of support behind her. She was in a psychotic break when the acts occurred, when she did this. Have mercy on her. That's kind of what I got from it. The prosecution brought out the idea to the jury that this witness could be biased as well because, hey, you spent so much time with her. You even go back during court to see how she's doing. So you're attached to her. How are you biased? So that'll come up in the jury deliberation room, I'm sure. And then after that, yesterday, oh my goodness, we all complained. We had we had to listen to the voir dire of a TikToker, Emily Thorndike, who, in my opinion, tried to insert herself into the trial, testifying about the conditions at McLean Hospital when she wasn't even working there at the time. She worked there a year before. And the judge thank goodness, blocked her testimony because I don't think I'd want to hear it again, because the judge said that her testimony wouldn't be material or relevant to the case as to the time that Lindsay was there. So that's where we are, and we'll see what happens today. We expect to hear from another expert witness, medical provider. I forgot the doctor's name, but let me turn to the chat and see what questions you have. Let's see, what time is it? It is 9:17, so they're starting a little bit late today. I thought they'd start a little earlier, actually. Okay, Michelle, you're first. I really hope the jury will not be all women when it comes to deliberations. That's really interesting. Huh. Well, there's a lot of women of the 18. There's more women than men. So I guess, Michelle, you're thinking that the women may be more sympathetic to postpartum psychosis and possibly to Lindsay. Possibly, but we've also had women in the chat that really think she's guilty after following this every single day. So never really know. Oh yeah, and then thank you, Amber, who's behind the scenes and put this up. Amber, you are the best. Good morning. I really appreciate you. I will say I appreciate you every day because I really mean that. And Lisa, I turned it off. I really couldn't listen to her. Yeah, well, you're lucky you could turn it off. I had to sit here and live stream through it, and I was starving and getting hangry. So then I started getting silly, but oh well. You're lucky you just turn it off. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did something productive with that part of your day. Susie, QFL, that empathy piece most of us have is missing with her. Okay. That's very interesting, and that's an interesting opinion. So obviously, Dr. Zeisel had a lot of empathy and compassion for the witness, and that certainly showed, but does that show his bias? I also think that Reddington has a lot of compassion for this witness, and we saw that during the press conference as well. And I don't know why he had Zeisel do the press conference with him. That was a mistake, as far as I think. Margaret, who would you bring for rebuttal? I would bring a medical expert for the Commonwealth, and somebody who can really testify opposite to what Zeisel said, because I'm still a little foggy with how somebody could be in such extreme psychosis to be able to do what she did to the children, yet act rational that day. Zeisel seemed to say, oh, that's totally normal if you're in psychosis. Well, based on what I've seen from psychosis, remember the family friend who I've seen in psychosis multiple times at McLean Hospital, she was not acting very rational. Yeah, she could do some things like go to the bathroom, or she could use her phone. Well, they took the phone away, but she could do simple things like that. But she could not. You would be able to tell throughout that day that she was in a very highly agitated state. Let's put it that way. I didn't see any evidence that Lindsay was in a highly agitated state. I mean, but the doctor, Zeisel, is like, okay, well, waxing, we've heard the term waxing and waning. Dr. Zeisel is like, oh, it's perfectly normal. You can be normal. So basically, he's saying that, well, let's say I had a history of this or mental, which I don't have a history of postpartum. I haven't had a baby in a long time, but let's just say for sake of argument that, oh, I could be doing this and being rational, and then in an hour, strangle, do that to my kids. I mean, it's just, to me, it seems out of the realm. So to answer the question, and it's a great question, I would bring in somebody for rebuttal, an expert who would contradict what Zeisel had to say about waxing and waning. That's kind of what I'm waiting to hear. We'll see what they come up with. Judy, Google it. You can look rational on the surface while in psychosis. That's what I'm hearing. I mean, that's exactly what the experts that I had on my show testified to. Why can I not? Can you guys hear this? Why do we not have sound? Or is it just me? Yeah, and that's a good question. Why haven't we heard from anybody at Spalding Rehab? Huh. Are you guys hearing this, or do I have some issue here with my sound? Anybody? Oh, did you guys just hear that opening? Because I didn't hear it. And I'm wondering if there's something wrong. Oh, I have yeah, okay. I know what it was. Somehow I accidentally muted my sound. Oh, wonderful. A good way to start the day. Mute my sound. Oh, you guys you didn't have any sound either? I don't know. Can you hear me? You can definitely hear me. Judy says the poll does not align with the chat. Yeah, I hear you on that. I think people are coming in later on in the day and voting not guilty by reason of insanity. Yeah, I was surprised by the outcome of the poll yesterday. So I'm just wondering, but a lot of people are just listening and they're not participating in the chat, which is fine, but they might be voting. So that's what it is. But the results of the poll are really interesting. Based on that poll result, people are leaning towards not guilty by reason of insanity. But it's still pretty divided. So what's the jury going to be thinking? They've been sitting there all the entire time. Oops, here's one, Lisa. So waxing and waning means going in and out. Yes, that's what waxing and waning means. So while she was in the act 3 times, she didn't come out at any time to stop herself. That's right. So the prosecution is making that point. It took deliberation. It took time to perform those 3 acts, and she never stopped herself. She continued with it, and then she jumped out the window. Lisa says, I find that hard to believe because then she contradicted this. Yeah, I think you've got a point, and I think that's exactly what. So, Susie, can you hear me? Okay. You can hear me. Okay. Well, that's good. I couldn't hear the court, but maybe that's something wrong with the court feed. I'm just double checking my sound. Yeah, now I have my sound turned all the way up. Just double checking. But now they're in sidebar. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but that could be something to do with the court feed. I'm going to text. Oh, there's Amber. Amber says there was no sound yet in court. Okay, then it's the court. It's not us. Oh, Pink Door. Waxing and waning doesn't mean instant. That's acute. Waxing and waning isn't K, then call Patrick in a minute. Wax and wane is gradual, like a wave, not a tsunami. Well, that's what I would like to know more about. I'd like to hear from the prosecution side of things about waxing and waning, because I think it's necessary. They need to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's why they say they're expert for rebuttal. And I think that's very smart. They wanted to hear what the Commonwealth's experts would say, would really testify to on the stand. So in Massachusetts, criminal cases, we don't have these long. Oh, you've been texting me, Amber? I'm so sorry. Amber, let's see. No, okay. No sound in court. You didn't hear me when I was saying hi this morning. Oh, gee, you know why? Because Amber, I actually had my sound off, but now I have my sound on. So, and I have my sound off on the phone. Boy, I've started out. Well, it's the morning. I had 1 cup of coffee though. I'm glad everybody can hear me and heard my explanation. Yeah, I want another expert as well, Judy. I'd like to really see how the prosecution synthesizes it all, because if they don't put on a good expert, then I think it's going to be a not guilty by reason of insanity. Michelle, defense experts were not a help to the defense. None of them treated her prior. I agree that they didn't treat her prior, but I do think that Zeisel was a good expert for the defense, in my opinion. But of course, we can have differing opinions here. I thought he explained it quite well to the jury, and I thought they found his background was very impressive. He did. Will they hold the fact that he seemed compassionate toward Lindsay? Will they hold that against him? Well, I think it's better than being too clinical. So we'll have to see what the jurors think about that. Lisa Fortunato, 1984. That's unbelievable. 3 times 3 little babies and never wants to come out of her waxing and waning. I can't wrap my head around it either. Sorry, I just can't. It's very difficult to wrap your head around this one. And in hindsight, which is 2020, I wish that we wouldn't be here if she had gotten the help that she really, really needed. If you're hearing voices in your head that you're afraid they're so loud that I'm afraid everybody else is going to be hearing these voices, please go get your self-help, please. And yeah, she was able to describe every other symptom that she had except for the voices that were so loud. I mean, according to Zeisel, she was worried her kids would be taken away. I could see that because she seemed to have loved her kids very much, and that would be the worst thing for her to have her kids be taken away. But it's if you're afraid to say you're hearing voices about harming your kids, if you're afraid of that, but you can still explain that you're hearing voices so loud that you're afraid other people are going to hear them too. I think that would raise a red flag for some of the, like Julie Paul and Dr. Tufts. I think they would have really stressed, you need to seek help at a facility for a long time. Okay. Well, I wonder what the delay is today. Gee, lots of delays here. Maui, I missed your point. I know I can scroll back up. Let's see. Lori, good morning. So Lori has a point here. Lori says anything she said after the acts can obviously be made up to defend herself. Yeah, that's true. Jurors are going to be thinking about that. Did she come up with the concept of the voices after? And did you tell Zeisel? Is she justifying it in her own mind? Well, I heard voices and trying to make herself look better, or trying to paint a defense because according to Zeisel, she has bad days and then worse days. However, she's very well liked on that floor. She's able to do things. She's able to see her family. They're able to bring her dinner. In prison, there would be accommodations for somebody in a wheelchair, but they wouldn't be able to bring her dinner, and it would be very different. You're not going to have loving nurses. I mean, I'm sure you'll have some nurses. Obviously, she's paralyzed, but prison's got to be a much different picture than a mental hospital. I'd certainly rather be in a hospital than a prison sentence for the rest of my life. It's so sad. It's just so sad. Oh, the poll, Lori, let me see this. So the poll says 7%, I'm reading it backwards, 7% undecided, 24% not guilty, now 69% guilty. The poll is all over the board. So this is what that tells me, that I think we are a cross-section that represents what jurors would be like. We have been listening to this, unless somebody's jumping in and voting, who haven't been. But I think most people are voting. My guess is you've been been with us from day one. I'm wondering if jurors are oscillating back and forth too. I'm one of the undecideds. I have to hear everything. Maybe that's just me. I'm waiting to hear from the Commonwealth's expert. It's just I see both sides because as you guys mention your points, let's say everybody who mentions points leaning towards guilty, you guys have some really good points. And I have to say, absolutely, you're right. And then the people that are leaning towards not guilty and saying, she was waxing and waning. This is what waxing and waning is all about. She was a loving mother. She had to have been in a severe state of psychosis, do not know what she was doing when these acts were committed. And I get those arguments as well. So I'm definitely weighing both sides as best I can. And that's why this case, people are riveted by it because again, we can look at these different pieces of evidence, the expert testimony. We're trying to apply it to the facts of this case. It's very difficult to do. And we are going to be on our pins and needles, I think, waiting for that verdict to get back. I think. And then if there's any questions, which I think it's always fun to analyze the questions. What did they mean by that? What do you think they're thinking? Are they thinking about this particular witness? So sometimes they'll ask to see, a transcript, which they're supposed to rely on their notes. But it's going to be, next week is going to be very interesting. I'm thinking it will wrap up sometime next week. So, pink door. Wait, let's see. I'm going to go to Lori first. Margaret. Margaret, it is like this every day. It is like this every day. Every day, I feel like I'm saying the same thing. So Lori again says, I've been saying this every day. I just think it's important when looking at the data and considering your base. Yeah, I think, the base, though, is all over the place. Yeah, Lisa, I'm waiting for both sides, and I would be fine with guilty, but she would have to stay in the mental institution, and get help for the rest of her life. I don't see how she would be eligible to get out. So in Massachusetts, they have a strict structure. There's a first 40-day evaluation, and then the prosecution will file a motion for commitment. But then there's a 6-month evaluation. She's not going to get out based on these facts. And it's reviewed yearly by a judge. So the court gets involved, a panel of experts, the prosecution will be involved. And I think the issue is, does she present a harm to others? And does she present a harm to herself? So I think she has a lot of S ideation. Remember, we heard through testimony, she's on a one-on-one. So having been to McLean Hospital with the family friend, a one-on-one, who had a one-on-one, but not for S ideation, but more for psychotic break, that type of thing. But a one-on-one is pretty significant. So her one-on-one is for S ideation. I'm not surprised. So I have a feeling, and they'll look at all those records. So I have a feeling that they will not be letting her out anytime soon. But of course, being in a hospital it's not that great. It's not. You still can't get out. You're locked in, and it's like a hospital setting. You do get some outdoor time, but it's monitored. But still, you've got a lot more freedom within the hospital walls than you would have within the prison walls. Jurors are going to be thinking about that. I think they're not going to be told, but they'll know. I think, remember, they have common sense. They're going to know that not guilty by reason of insanity. I would imagine they'd realize that she wouldn't just walk the streets. Somebody on that jury panel is going to say, she's going to be in an institution. But then somebody else, I could see the argument going, but we don't want to see her out next year. So there will be a lot of talk on that, just like we talk about it. We bring it up all the time. Lisa Fortunata, 1984. Okay, I feel that's where she belongs for a long time because I believe she is a danger to other people first and then to herself. Yep. Yeah, she could be. I don't know what a danger she'd be in the wheelchair. I don't think she'll ever not be able to get out of the wheelchair based on Dr. LaPosada describing her injuries. I mean, but so she's obviously on antipsychotic meds right now, and that's what was testified to. So when you're on the proper medication, that will help you not to hear voices anymore. So allegedly, I don't think she's hearing the voices anymore, but she's probably on the proper meds, which she should have been on originally. But if she had told her doctors, then she would have been on the proper meds. And again, it takes time for the medical doctors, the psychiatrists, to figure out what are your symptoms, what is the worst symptom. Obviously, hearing voices so loud that you think other people are hearing them and harming, the idea that you feel you could harm the kids. So then they will give the proper medication or combination thereof to help her with that, to bring her down from that psychotic state. So that's probably why she's not hearing voices now. But then there's the fear, if she gets out of the hospital, will she go off her medication? So that's always a fear. And if she's hearing voices, could she grab a kitchen knife and do this to somebody else? Those are all the questions that they're going to have. It's quite a case. Andrea Yates. Yep, Pink Door. I miss Pam in the chat. Pam, if you're listening, we miss you. I know you dropped out of the chat the other day because you didn't like some of the tone, or I hear you there, and I tried to correct that. But I'm saying, if you are listening, good morning, and we miss you. So Pink Door, Andrea Yates is very, very clear. Nothing like this case. She wasn't functioning at all. Right. This case is far from clear. Really, really is. Oh, I'm trying to get Susie QFL. Yes, true, Julie. Andrea Yates, after she came out of psychosis, she realized what she did, and she wants to stay. I would be that way too. I don't deserve to get out. Yeah, that could be. And maybe after a while she just wouldn't want to get out and she would adjust to the hospital. So I did. Again, we bring our experiences, and the family friend that we have, who I'm very, very close to, have known the whole life, who I visited in McLean a number of times, and I'd bring her some meals, and because I had compassion for her and her mental illness. It was just awful. So, you think, when you see somebody suffering to that extent, who is completely normal for 18 years, literally easy kid for 18, and very smart, was headed off to college on scholarships, and she was struck by the bipolar 1. So when you hear that happening to somebody, and of course she lost all her friends because she was manic posting and all that. So, you have compassion for those people, and, but for the sake of God, there go I. What if that was me in there? So I did visit her quite a bit, and I remembered one of her friends who she met at the hospital, who I met as well. The hospital was a safe place for that person. So the second that person would get out of the hospital, he'd try to get back in. So, ultimately the mental hospital might be a safe place for Andrea Yates or for Lindsay Clancy. It's, and like-minded people. You're also going to have people that have maybe not done this, but people who have committed, who have been in severe psychosis and have done other things, like, most of the severe psychosis stuff in their minds is they've made a fool of themselves, because that's the way they feel. And of course, what people need to understand is they have a mental illness, but they're embarrassed about most of them, from what I've seen, are embarrassed by their manic posting. It's sad. And that's, that's just bringing my background. And of course I'm a lawyer, so I'm not a a health expert at all, but I wouldn't have been if it wasn't for my family friend. So, Lisa, for me, I know there was no way that my doctor was going to give me another med unless I wanted off of it. And they knew my history because, again, it was the one doctor I didn't shop around. Yeah. But sometimes you have to doctor shop because it's really hard to find the right doctor who can address your specific needs. Susie QFL 4 hasn't shown to me she was in psychosis. She is a nurse, didn't give meds a chance, nor input. So people are getting upset that she didn't tell her doctors more about what was going inside her head. And I agree with that. She wasn't honest with her doctors. There you go right there, Susie. You're right. And she wasn't honest with her family. She did tell her mother that she was worried she could harm the children and Patrick. But to what extent did she tell her family about those voices being so loud? The family must, in hindsight, just feel awful that they didn't do more. But, I'm not placing blame on them because they might have relied on the fact that she was a nurse too, and she was a great mother. It seemed like Lindsay's mother did what she could. She came and stayed with her, and the other grandmother, Mrs. Clancy, was also concerned and gave her Julie Paul, recommended a specialist for her and everything. It's really hard when a family member goes through something like this. So what will the jury think? And again, our discussions here, I discussed the law in the beginning of this. You can always rewind and check. I recap the day and my thoughts on the testimony and the law. But now I think what we really have to go into is human nature, because jurors will bring their experiences into the jury box. And they answered a long questionnaire. So hopefully they can be open-minded here. But will they blame Lindsay Clancy? Gosh, and why is it taking them so long to start? Pink Door, I don't think she was ever hearing voices before, and I don't think any other expert is going to say she did based on the Commonwealth's questions that the defense cut off. Yeah, you have a good point there. She never mentioned that she was hearing voices. So why now? Why after the fact? Jurors are going to be focused on that. To be a fly on the wall in that jury box, to be a fly on the wall, especially for this case. So Lisa Fortuna to 1984, I know that if I told my mother that I heard voices and I was going to harm the kids, there would be no way my mother would have left me alone with the kids. I just don't think she was honest with her mom, and I think you might be right there. And the other argument would be, and I disagree with it, I thought that the other side, or Zeisel, was trying to make the point that because she was in a state of psychosis or so mentally ill that she, I don't know, wasn't able to properly tell people about her diagnosis. I think the main reason was she was afraid that she would lose her kids. That seems like the main reason to me. So let's see, Pink Door. Pink Door 507, I'm kind of hoping they have no more witnesses, and that's the delay. Well, I know that there's another witness. I believe there's another doctor. Somebody was, I think they're waiting, there was one time. So wait, I'm going to finish the rest of your thing. I thought it was very weird. Reddington didn't want those other reports mentioned. Yeah, that's interesting. There was one time, oh gosh. So as you know, I'm a former prosecutor, and I also did a lot of trial work, jury work, tried lots of cases before the jury. And I remember one time in open court, oh gosh, Judge Gerasitis. I don't know if any of you in the chat know of Judge Gerasitis, but he was from Charlestown, Massachusetts. Charlestown and the Code of Silence. It's a neighborhood of Boston, and it was at one point it had the highest unsolved M rate like in the country, or I don't know, maybe in the world. I don't know, but it was because of the Code of Silence. So it's very Irish. What Whitey Bulger was out of South Boston, but Charlestown had its bank robbers. It had its own code of silence. So it was very interesting. I lived there for a while. So when I was a young prosecutor, I actually lived in Charlestown, and I was writing a book, and I would go back and forth to Lawrence, where I was a prosecutor, which was high crime area. So I'll never forget. So judges in Massachusetts, especially in some of the courts, they circulate around. So Judge Gerasitis was born and raised in Charlestown, and he had a thick Boston accent. And the point I'm trying to make about so a doctor was supposed to come in to testify at a certain trial that I think I had. I don't know. I think the doctor was a witness for the defense. And so Judge Gerasitis is like, the doctor finally came in, and he just ripped it to the doctor. He's like, you kept the court waiting. We have to wait in your waiting room. So he went off about how, conceited the doctors can be because they keep the public waiting in their own waiting rooms to be seen. And now you've kept the courtroom waiting. So he ripped him another one, and in his Irish accent. I'll never forget. Those were the good old days, boy. You should have heard some of the stuff that came out of their mouths in the bench. I mean, some of it was too much, I agree, and not proper, but God, in the Irish accents, I could write a movie about it. So we might be waiting for a doctor again, and I don't think Judge Sullivan would rip him a new one like Judge Gerasitis did, but we'll see. My goodness. We want to all start our day, don't we? So, Susie, congratulations. Yes. You know what? I must have missed that. Maybe tell her if she ever has bad thoughts, tell you, and no one will judge her. I think it is, I'm not sure what that conversation was, because I was talking about doctors being late, but it's really tough sometimes dealing with, as I saw our close family friends dealing with their family member and loved one. It's hard. It's hard dealing with mental health and trying to help people sometimes. One of the hardest things ever. Judy, Susie, I said here day one, I would quit my job, sell my house, to do whatever it takes to run to my daughter. Yeah, we do. Most mothers would do that. I just spent a month with my daughter, bossing me around in New York City, helping her with newborn twins. So that was a lot. That was a lot of work. I miss those twins so much, but I'm glad to be home finally. Yeah, I think we all would do that for our children. Oh, most of us would, not everyone. So, such a sad case, though. Can you imagine if the defense is right? Just let's say she really was suffering from severe psychosis, heard voices, and did this to her children. I wouldn't want to live with myself. God, no. So I wouldn't. Simple as that. I'm blessed and lucky. I've never took it for granted. There's nothing like your parents, good parents. Yeah, that's great. Glad we're sharing about our parents. And it's very tough to be a parent. And but I think in the long run, as I'm looking back, we sacrifice a lot, and I think it's important to do so, because life goes fast. I can't believe I've got twin grandbabies already. I feel old saying that, but I'm very happy. Oh my gosh, Susie, did I miss that? I'm going to be a grandma soon. Congratulations. Is this your first? Because this was my first. We had twins. And Sarah had, I shouldn't say her name, but anyway, she had twins, beautiful twins. And it's really, there's nothing like being a grandmother. And we heard that from Lindsay's mom. There's nothing, and Patrick's mom, there's nothing like being a grandmother. And that's true. You just see the cycle of life, and it really makes you reflect and think back. But that's really wonderful news. Susie, when are you going to be a grandmother? I was a grandmother a month earlier than I thought I was going to be a grandmother. So that's really wonderful. That's just wonderful. And yes, user WT9, thank you. Good morning. Again, I think the 3 children have been lost in all this. They aren't hardly ever mentioned. I think she should be held accountable. And I appreciate your opinion. Well, the prosecution started their opening statement describing each child. And throughout the case, the prosecutors have done a good job through various witnesses, like the grandparents, like Patrick, describing what each child was like. And then the daycare providers, they had them describe the children. The nanny described the children. So we did get bits and pieces of what the children were all about throughout the trial. And remember, it's been, I don't know now, over almost 4 weeks we're getting into. But I do think they have brought the children up, and the children will definitely be brought up during closing arguments. And I think the reason that we're just focusing so much on the medical testimony right now, because it's all about the brain, the complex human brain with billions of, what did they testify to? Billions of nerves that run through our complex human brain that don't cross, or they don't intersect. They have something that, I don't know. But I was listening to that and thinking, wow, that's why some of these trials, listening to the experts and hearing about our bodies or our brains, I think it's very fascinating. And I learn from every single trial. And we certainly learn about, even from seeing Whiffen again on the stand, we learn about the Apple Health data. Oh, you know what? Maybe the delay.
Going to be a short recess, so we're going to bring the jury back in, and we'll call the next witness. Okay?
All right.
Okay, the jury's coming in. That took a while. It's almost 10 o'clock. So I will be in and out today. I'm headed to a pre-planned vacation, and just for a few days that my significant other would unalive me, if I said, "Oh, I've got to just live stream the whole time." But I will be in the chat, and the stream will be up and running. So I will be around, and I will. I'm going to sneak off and find the public library too, to see if I can possibly, even from my laptop. But look for me in the chat, because when I'm unavailable, I'm really listening the whole time with my headphones and adding my legal theories and analysis in the chat. But I will be here in spirit. The chat, it'll be up and running. But unfortunately, what time is it now? I'll wait till they bring the jury in, and then I'm going to have to just take myself out. And but just look for me in the chat at the Margaret McLean Show. I can't chat and drive. That's the only thing. Then I'll get pulled over, and I'll have to get out of it somehow. Yeah, we do sleepovers too. Oh, great, Judy. So, if you on another note, before the jury comes in, congratulations on being a grandmother. And I threw a shower for my daughter. So if you have any questions and you'd like to reach out, reach out to me, and I will give you some of the ideas that I had for the baby shower for my daughters, my daughter or her twins. So that's the other thing I like to share with you guys. If there's some advice other than law, I'll share with you what I did for the shower. It was really fun. But yeah, thank you, Pearl Jam. Yeah, it's just a little getaway over the weekend, and which starts today. Yeah, and we're going. We'll be on the ocean. I'm excited. It'll be fun, but of course, it happens right during this trial. But what can you do? This was planned. This was planned months and months and months ago. We didn't even know when the trial would officially start. So, and then here's another. Joanne, I don't understand why they weren't taking her mental conditions more serious. It puzzled me unless Lindsay was manipulating them. Well, so I think what's interesting is this civil lawsuit that Patrick Clancy has filed for wrongful death against some of the medical providers. They are going to be they're watching this trial just like we are, and they are going to be looking at evidence that Lindsay Clancy failed to tell the medical providers what her true symptoms were. So this is great for the defense in that civil case. I think they're probably jumping for joy, and I think that will be settled. That's my thought. But the biggest argument they have is, how can we provide treatment for you if you're not telling us what's wrong? I think right there that the for me, because I did a lot of civil defense work, and that's what I would say if I'm defending the case. Oh, thanks. I appreciate the commentary. I think about it at night, and I think, well, what did I forget to say? Or what else? Sometimes when we're in the moment of hearing the testimony, and I think jurors do this too. Sometimes you turn it off, like as Reddington would say, we turn our televisions, meaning our laptops, off our televisions. He did that deliberately. That was everything he says is deliberate, and because he was making fun of, sort of ridiculing the telehealth, and also going back on talking about Reddington and his style. Did you notice during direct examination of Zeisel, what he did very well, in my opinion, is he kind of played dumb, but he's not dumb. For example, he would ask a question and Zeisel would start explaining in medical terms. And he'd say, wait, wait. I don't get what you mean. Wait, back up. What does that mean? I don't understand. So he was doing that for the sake of the jury, which is really brilliant. It's brilliant lawyering, because sometimes what lawyers do is they let their expert go on and ramble on, and it sounds very expertise and blah, 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 blah. But maybe jurors aren't really following what the doctor's talking about. Of course, Reddington knows, because he's studied this case. He's been preparing for months and months and years, let's say. But to put it that way is what a seasoned defense attorney does. I pick up on little things like that. So I was stunned when Zeisel and Lindsay Clancy is extremely, extremely well regarded and liked by everyone in the hospital. It gives me vibes of manipulative psychopath. Well, that's kind of interesting way to look at it. Is she a manipulative psychopath if she is liked by everybody at the hospital? Yeah, that's one way to look at it. And I'm sure one of the jurors is going to feel strongly about that. It's going to be, I'm just wondering I don't think they'll be as nice as the chat. I think there's going to be some back and forth arguing in there because the case is so emotional. So if you have a juror who's really on the side of the children and really thinks she's guilty and thinks she's a manipulative psychopath, that juror is going to fight, in my opinion. And it's going to be like that. What? It's taking so long. How can they properly evaluate someone in less than 30 minutes? Yeah. I mean, that's true. But we certainly can't say that about Zizelle. He was with her for over 35 hours, which is a long time. So that's one of the things that attorneys, I would do if the other side put on an expert and they only evaluated somebody for 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, you'd cross-examine them on that and say, well, how could you really evaluate somebody in that amount of time? Yeah. Did I watch? Let's see. I'm just looking at the chat. Yeah, gosh. I don't know what is taking so long to bring the jury in. I'd like to get into court. I'll be driving by the court, not somewhat on Route 3. For those of you in Massachusetts, I'll be coming up from the Cape area. So on Monday, I'll be driving back. I'm going to try to see if I can get into court on Monday. We'll see how hard it is to get in. I'm glad I didn't go yesterday. I'm glad I stayed here with you guys, other than the fact that I had to listen to that TikToker. But can you imagine if I was in court for that? Oh, geez. Just unalive me. I mean, that was awful. But I think that might work to slip in on Monday. If I can't get in, I can't get in. Then I come back home and I'm live streaming with you guys. But the live stream will be up and running. Okay, Lori. Oh, yep. I believe he said they were going to take a short recess and then bring the jury in. Okay, I must have heard it wrong. I was wishful thinking that they would bring the jury in. Wishful thinking. So Lisa, you think that Reddington is going to rest today? I don't think his last witness is going to show up. Oh, I think his witness will show up. I do. I don't think he'll rest today, but you could be right. I mean, he's close to resting, in my opinion. Lori, thank you for this. In his interview this morning, so I didn't see his interview this morning, Reddington said that he thought they would rest early next week. Okay, that's great information. I did not see the interview this morning. You obviously watched the news. I didn't. I was busy trying to pack and then get set everything up, make sure things were running well with the stream. That's really interesting. Okay, that's good to know. Oh yeah, Dr. Resnick. Yeah, Dr. Resnick was supposed to come. Yes, in person. I believe he was supposed to come in person. So who knows? I don't know. We don't know. We can only guess. Unless maybe somebody on X knows, like one of the reporters that's there. Yeah, I agree with you, Judy. They need, I think the prosecution has to have they will put on a rebuttal case. They have to, I think. But these prosecutors have not impressed me. And I don't think the other lawyers who I've spoken with, I talk to my lawyer friends about it. They call. They're not impressed with the prosecution either, especially that question. All the lawyers are talking about that, the mortal sin question. Oh, Pam, nice to see you in the chat. I don't know if you heard me when I said good morning this morning. Lindsay Clancy didn't go to a therapist for a talk therapy first with her symptoms. She went straight to the psychiatrist to get medication. But going to the psychiatrist, they're the only ones that can give you medication. An initial psychiatric evaluation typically lasts between 45 and that's true, but usually the psychiatrists and psychologists work hand in hand. I know, short break from what I hear you, Susie. Geez. Susie, let me know if you need any advice on throwing a baby shower. Maybe you've already done it. It's awesome. Good morning, Pam. I'm so happy to see you back in the chat. I really am. You've been with us since day one. When you left yesterday, I'm like, oh no, come back. So I'm really happy to hear that. Oh, let's see. Professor Retro 3041. Hi, Margaret. Hope you're well. One of my favorite interviews I've ever done was when we talked about Whitey on trial. My radio name is Boston Eric. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thanks for joining me. So I remember that. Oh gosh, I remember that. So I wrote a book on Whitey Bulger. Well, I covered the Whitey Bulger trial, not on this because we didn't have this back then, like streaming and all that. And I wish I had gotten into, I could have gotten into streaming in the very beginning. And nothing I can do about it now. But yes, I enjoyed that radio interview very much. In fact, once this case is over, I've asked, I'm going to do something on Whitey Bulger again because I want to get Bob Ward on. He's got a new book out on it. So people are interested in Whitey, and I'll have to figure out a series to do on that and the Boston mob, but not just the blah, 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 what we already know. I'd like to delve into some of the stuff that we don't know or that would be interesting. And I'd like to do a live on that. So but I want to be prepared for it. So I've got to read that book, which I haven't yet. I have it. Actually, I'll bring it on my vacation. That's a great idea. But yes, thank you very much. And let me know some of the topics that you guys are interested in, because I do like to live stream the trials. If there's not a great trial going on, I also want to run a live about certain topics that you guys are interested in. Oh, well, I heard noise. Good, at least we heard something. Yay.
All right. Counsel, we ready for the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
I agree with you, armchair detective. They need to keep their emotions out of it. Okay, I'm going to jump out and pack up and head down Route 3. But I will be here in spirit. I will be listening all along so I can provide legal analysis. And you want a wrap up this weekend? Okay, if I can, I'll try. If I can be in an area where I can connect, I can give something, I hope. I'll try. But anyway, keep the great chat up. Jury's coming in. Thank you for the safe travels. I appreciate that. I hope it gets warmer in South Africa. However, if it gets warmer in South Africa, it's going to get colder here. I was thinking about you last night when I'm thinking, oh, it's August, where the sun isn't out as long and all that. All right. Well, here we go. Here's the trial. Thank you, everybody, who wishing me a great time. I appreciate that.
Hey, all persons having anything to do before the Honorable William Sullivan, Justice of the Superior Court, now sitting in Plymouth, within the Commonwealth. Draw near, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Court is now in session. Please be seated.
Yes.
Before the court today, we have a continuation of the jury trial in the matter of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. Ms. Clancy is present. She is represented by attorney Kevin Reddington. The Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Sprague and Assistant District Attorney Shanan.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you again. I know I just spoke to you probably about 10 minutes ago. But again, I want to ask you those questions, then we'll talk a little bit about what our schedule is today and for the rest of the week. All right, so first question, has any member of the jury read, seen, heard, or overheard anything from any source about any aspect of this case that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial as a juror? Next, is there any other serious matter or concern bearing on your service as a juror that anybody needs to bring to my attention at this time? All right. Again, thank you for following those instructions. And then in regards to our schedule today, you're allowed to kind of roll your eyes because I'm going to say we're going to have kind of a short day today. All right. And that is, as I talked to you yesterday about an issue that has nothing to do with any of the attorneys in this case. All right. It's just something we're going to work out, and I anticipate it will be worked out so that tomorrow you should count on a lengthier day. All right. I've talked to counsel earlier this morning in regards to where we are in regards to the schedule and the timeline. We are still, if not on schedule, still ahead of schedule. All right. And this delay that we may have a little bit this afternoon won't affect that. All right. So I just kind of wanted to let you know that I appreciate it. I know you came in here this morning. It's going to be a short day, but also gear up for a longer day tomorrow. Okay. And so with that, the other thing is I told you it's got nothing to do with any of the attorneys, but it's also or the parties. So you're not to speculate about what this might be. It's also you're not to hold it against either of the parties in regards to this. All right. If you're going to hold it against anybody, you can hold it against me. All right. So with that, we're going to return now to the evidence in this case. And Attorney Reddington.
Thank you. Sheila Kavanaugh, please.
Good morning. In this case, Madam Clerk, raise your right hand.
The testimony of the evidence you shall give to the court. Sorry, there is not coming between the Commonwealth and the with the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Yes. Thank you. You have a seat.
Just watch your step right there.
All right. Well, good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
All right, I just ask you to speak into that microphone and keep your voice up so the jury can hear you. Attorney Reddington.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you tell us your name and spell your last name, please?
My name is Sheila Kavanaugh, Cavanaughh.
And what town do you live in?
I live in the town of Belmont, Massachusetts.
And what are you doing for work now?
I am a board-certified chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston.
And I didn't know that there were board-certified chaplains. What does that mean?
Well, to become board-certified, you need minimally a master's degree in theology or divinity. You need to complete 1,600 hours of training post your master's degree. 1,200 of those hours are occur in a clinical setting, and 400 of those hours are in a classroom setting where we study various disciplines: psychology, sociology, philosophy, theology, and ethics. Beyond that training, we need to acquire 2,000 hours of additional clinical training before we can even apply for board certification. And we have to demonstrate mastery of 30 competencies before we go to a national board, and they make the assessment. I also needed an ecclesiastical endorsement. And in my case, that was from the Archdiocese of Boston, from Cardinal Sean O'Malley.
And before you obtained the board certification in your education to allow you to be a chaplain, what did you do for work?
Prior to becoming a chaplain, which is a second career for me, I was a senior vice president at Fidelity Investments in Boston.
And how long were you senior VP at Fidelity?
16 years. And
are you married?
I am.
You have a family?
I do. My husband and I are the parents of 4 adopted children. When I was pursuing my master's degree at Boston College, it was a 3-year master's, but it took me 5 years because we adopted our 4th child while I was in graduate school. She was a 14-year-old girl from Bogota, Colombia.
And how long have you been working now as a chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital?
7 years.
In the course of your duties as a chaplain at Brigham and Women's Hospital, did circumstances bring you in contact with Lindsay Clancy?
Yes, they did.
Can you tell the jurors what happened?
I arrived on the morning of Wednesday, January 25th, 2023. I arrived at approximately 8:30 that morning because I was there to relieve the overnight chaplain who was carrying the pager. I was taking over the pager shift, which went from 9 to 1 p.m., although I was working a full day. When I arrived that morning, she said to me, "Did you hear the news?" And
so
Sustain.
Okay. So you can't, you got to object, so you can't say what someone told you, okay? That's called hearsay? Okay. So I can say, as a result of the conversation with that person, what happened?
I was summoned to the Director of Spiritual Care's office.
Did you have a conversation with her?
I did.
All right. And as a result of that conversation, what did you do?
I went to Unit 8C in the Tower building of Brigham to meet with Lindsay Clancy.
And what time of day was this?
Roughly between 8:30 and 9:30 that morning.
And when you went in to see Lindsay, what did you observe?
Well, the unit itself was filled with law enforcement officers, both outside the doors of the unit. There was Brigham security, but the unit itself was flooded. There were people from Plymouth County, Boston City Police, Brigham Security, so I had to make my way through concentric circles of law enforcement to even get to the room. I was permitted to see Lindsay, although she could not speak at that time.
And what was her condition that you observed?
She was dressed in medical armor. She had tubes, she was intubated, she had bandages, she had a neck brace. She was just covered and layered in equipment that enabled her to breathe.
I'm showing you Exhibit 121 and asking, this may be South Shore, or it could be Brigham and Women's, but is this indicative of what she appeared to be when you first saw her?
That looks like it's from South Shore because yes.
Does she have the same?
Similar.
Very similar?
Very similar.
Like that?
Yes, very similar.
Did you see her again on another date?
I did. I saw her the next day. Again, she could not speak. She was intubated as well. That was the first week that she was hospitalized.
When was the next time that you saw her?
The next time I saw her was the following week. I have a calendar here of my visits. I saw her on Tuesday, January 31st, and she had been extubated at that point so she could speak.
So the tube had been removed. She was able to communicate, and that was on January 31st?
I believe she was extubated the weekend of the 28th, but I didn't work that weekend, so I saw her on Tuesday, the 31st.
All right. Tell the jurors what you observed and what, if any, conversation you had with Lindsay on the 31st. And let me ask you, how long had it been that they removed the tube?
Perhaps a day or two.
A day or two, okay. Tell the jurors what she said to you.
She continued to look like the photograph you just saw. She was covered, tubes everywhere, the neck brace. Her emotional state was very neutral, a flat affect. But I remember vividly the first thing she said to me. Now, she had heard me for a couple of days. We had been praying together. And so when I went in on Tuesday the 31st, she said to me as I held her hand to comfort her, "I am so glad my children are safe."
Was there any other conversation that you had with her?
I replied theologically to Lindsay, and I said, "Lindsay, your children are safe. They're safe in heaven with God." And I held her hand throughout that conversation, and we prayed for them.
Did she make any other statements to you?
She did. She alluded to having heard a voice, and the voice, according to Lindsay, told her that if she did not follow the command, neither she nor her children would be safe.
And did she indicate whether it was a male voice, a female voice, loud, soft?
She alluded to the fact that it was a male voice and it was persistent.
Any further conversation that you recall about that, not about general things, you know?
That came up several times. I visited Lindsay minimally 14 times while she was hospitalized at the Brigham, and the voice conversation came up several times during several of our visits.
Now, after Lindsay was transferred or cleared to go from Brigham and Women's Hospital, did she go to another facility?
She did. She went to Spaulding Rehabilitation Hospital.
And do you know when that was?
That was roughly late February, perhaps around the 23rd.
And did you continue to see Lindsay at Spaulding Rehab?
I did.
Do you know when she left Spaulding Rehab?
In the late March, early April time frame, perhaps.
Okay. Now, Brigham and Women's Hospital and Spaulding Rehab are under the same umbrella of hospitals. Is that right?
They are. So Brigham and Women's Hospital and Spaulding Rehab are under the Mass General Brigham complex. So for me to visit Lindsay in Spaulding, I was still within the same hospital complex, and her psychiatrist at Spaulding, as well as the chaplains, advised me to continue.
You can't say what anybody told you.
Oh.
So when she was discharged from Spaulding Rehab, where did she go?
She went to Tewksbury State Hospital.
And fair to say that that would be back around February. It's been a little more than 3 years, 3.5 years.
Yes.
Is that correct? Now, when you saw her in Spaulding Rehab and in Brigham and Women's, you were acting in the course of your job. Is that right?
That's correct.
So you're being compensated, you're getting your paycheck and that type of thing.
Yes.
How many times have you seen Lindsay at Tewksbury Hospital?
Perhaps 200 times.
Tell the jury why you continue to see her for 200.
Sustained.
So can you tell us how often on a weekly basis you would see her at Tewksbury?
Yes. When Lindsay was admitted to Tewksbury State Hospital, I continued to see her on a weekly basis. We had built up a very comfortable, respectful rapport, and I felt it was in her best interest to continue that as she healed. She was still in deep grief. She was suffering.
Sustained.
So
that opinion will be stricken.
So did she express anything about her children and their loss over that period of 200 times that you saw her thereabouts in Tewksbury?
Objection.
No, overruled.
Yes.
Other jurors?
Lindsay talks frequently about her children. She loves them deeply. She carries immense grief.
Objection.
Overruled. Next question.
And has that continued to your observation?
It continues presently.
When was the last time that you saw Lindsay in Tewksbury?
Just prior to the trial starting.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Kamal.
Thank you. Excuse me. Good morning.
Good morning.
You were talking about on January 25th, 2023, when you first saw Lindsay in direct examination, and you said that there were a lot of police officers in the area, correct?
Correct.
But you mentioned that some of them were security personnel from the hospital, correct?
Correct.
And you're aware that the security personnel for the hospital don't work for the state police, the Duxbury Police, or the Plymouth County DA's office, correct?
Correct.
So they're separate and apart from law enforcement, correct?
Yes.
And then are you also aware that on January 25th, 2023, there was a search warrant being executed to collect evidence from the defendant and from the belongings that she had at the hospital?
No, I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that that collection of the search warrant required state police and personnel from the crime lab to be present for the collection of evidence?
I was not aware of that.
Were you aware that following that, at any given time, there were only 2 officers, either Duxbury Police, State Police, or Plymouth County Sheriffs, at her room, the defendant's room, at any given time?
I do recall that.
And they were stationed outside of her room, correct, in the hallway?
Yes.
So that the only time you saw this large amount of officers present was on the 25th, when there were security from the hospital and search warrants being executed, correct?
Perhaps.
Now, you mentioned that on January 31st, 2023, you spoke to the defendant and she told you that she heard a voice telling her that if she did not follow the command, neither she nor her children would be safe, correct?
Correct.
You wrote very detailed notes that are contained in the Brigham and Women's Hospital records regarding your interactions with Lindsay Clancy, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And in all of these notes that detail every time you interacted with her, you never once wrote that she told you she heard a voice or what that voice said, correct?
Correct.
And you also said that this voice, talking about the voice, came up in several of your meetings, correct?
Correct.
And you never once wrote about any of it in any of your very detailed notes, correct?
Well, chaplain notes are not verbatim transcripts of patient conversations. I'm not there to evaluate the patient. I'm there to bear witness to their suffering.
Okay, but the question was, you did not document those statements in your notes, correct?
Correct.
But you did document some other statements in those notes, correct?
Perhaps.
For example, on February 6th, 2023, in a note that you wrote regarding your interaction with the defendant, you said that, or you wrote, Lindsay welcomed the visit and shared her fears of, quote, not being able to walk again, end quote. She continued to express her fears of how her inability to walk may make her vulnerable to others in the future. Do you recall writing that?
Yes.
Do you recall writing on February 9th, 2023, that the defendant was sitting in a chair adjacent to her bed and appeared to be visibly engaged, energized, and hopeful than in previous visits? Do you recall that?
Yes.
You also wrote in that note, Lindsay spoke hopefully of being discharged when the time arrives to Spalding, correct?
Correct.
And then in February 13th, 2023, you wrote in your note that Lindsay also expressed hopefulness in relation to her physical progress. She feels she has gained considerable physical strength and agility despite an inability to move her legs. She admitted that she feels, quote, deserving of this, end quote, in light of recent events. Do you remember writing that?
Yes.
Do you remember on February 16th, 2023, that you wrote in a note that the defendant expressed hopefulness with the news of her anticipated discharge to Spalding and seemed uplifted that she would be cared for in a facility with an excellent reputation?
Yes.
Do you recall writing on February 16th, 2023, that Paula, the defendant's mother, and Lindsay, the defendant, were playing a card game as they communed quietly, and that Lindsay expressed hopefulness with the news of her anticipated discharge to Spalding and seemed uplifted.
Yes.
And again, you've got all these details about her feelings and her thoughts and what she's doing, but nothing about the voices that you spoke of so many times, correct?
Correct.
And speaking of Spalding, you continued to visit her at Spalding, correct?
Yes.
In those conversations with her at Spalding, did she tell you that how in those first weeks at Spalding, that part of her physical therapy, she was working out with the yellow exercise band? No?
I don't recall her telling me that.
Did she tell you that during that time at Spalding, she reached out to a social worker there and asked for help filling out SSDI paperwork to get an income?
That would be beyond the scope of our conversation.
She didn't tell you those things?
No.
Thank you.
So, counsel has asked you about her filling out a form for SSDI. Were you aware of what expenses her family were incurring as a result of her physical incapacity, paralysis, and being in the hospital?
From my experience with thousands of patients, I had a very clear idea of the enormous expense.
There's a difference between, as the district attorney very appropriately referred to, that your comments were about her thoughts and her appearance and her feelings. Is that correct?
Correct.
There's a difference, however, between privileged communications with a chaplain and observations of a person's feelings and thoughts, correct?
Correct.
Tell the jury what effect privileged communication has when someone talks to you personally as a chaplain.
Because I'm not a medically trained clinician, I approach patients in a vortex of trust. Some of our chaplains at the Brigham are ordained clergy. And so there's this understanding that when a patient interacts with a chaplain, the conversations are confidential.
Do you put them in medical records?
No.
The words, like Lindsay indicated that she felt uplifted, I think the counsel read that twice. Were those your notes, or is that what she said to you? Did she say, I feel uplifted, or is that your
was my
observation?
perception of Lindsay. It was not her words.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Como?
You said you're not allowed to put the defendant's words in your medical records. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. It's not that I'm not allowed. It's an understanding, and it's a conversation that's held in confidence with the patient.
Then why are there direct quotes in these medical records from the defendant?
Well, they're not verbatim transcripts.
No, not a transcript of the whole conversation, but you put phrases in quotes. For example, on February 6, 2023, where it says Lindsay welcomed the visit and shared her fears of, quote, not being able to walk again. So those were her words in your note, in quotes, in the medical record, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I use my best judgment.
Okay. I would move to have these submitted as the next exhibit, the notes of the witness in her interactions with Ms. Clancy at the Brigham and Women's.
Any objection? No. All right. They may be admitted.
I have no further questions. Sorry.
Hey, Mr. Reddington, go ahead.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. You may step down. All right, counsel, can I see it?
I haven't left yet. So I am actually still here. So I figured I might as well just still talk about it, right? My lighting isn't good because, hold on one second. I could hear myself coming through the phone in the kitchen, so that's why I had to go turn the phone off. But geez, I think they're probably going to stop here for the day. And I thought it was interesting how part of the testimony that I got, I listened to the whole thing, but that she told the chaplain that she felt the children were safe. And then they prayed about, yes, they're safe up in heaven. So that occurred shortly, I think in one of the earlier visits, or maybe the first visit with the chaplain. So I wondered what you guys thought about that. Since, I can't get away from my stream. So Lisa says, again, my opinion, defense is resting. I don't think they're resting today. They have nothing more to say. What else could I possibly say? Well, I think that maybe they'll rest tomorrow. Remember, this is going to be a short day. I have a feeling maybe the doctor for some reason couldn't come, or the defense witness, so they put the chaplain on. Oh, did I scare you? Sorry, Lisa. Yeah, sometimes I scare myself. I'm always scared whenever the judge comes back on. But I haven't left yet, and I just figured if this is the last witness of the day, I might as well just chime in, right, and see what you guys have to say about that. Sorry I scared you, Lisa. Yeah, I guess I was a little loud. And of course, then I was listening to myself coming through on my cell phone in the other room. So Pink Door, what do you have to say? She probably would have been more appropriate witness for the state.
I told you it was going to be a short day for you, right?
Yep, it's ending.
Appreciate your patience with us. So I'm going to excuse you till tomorrow at 9, all right? Same instructions. And that includes reading anything, talking about this case, watching anything. Just don't do it, all right? And when you leave here today, just drive, go home, wherever you're going to go, and plan on being back here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. The plan would be that it will be it will be a longer day than today. I appreciate you coming in here today. We moved the case a little bit today, and I appreciate that. So we're able to do that. So I hope everybody has a nice afternoon and evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning for a longer day. And just remember those instructions from the moment you leave to the moment you come here tomorrow. Okay? Again, thank you so much.
All rise, please. Your intensity.
Okay, so tomorrow I will be in and out, so watch for me in the chat as I chat from my vacation. I haven't left yet. I'm a little behind, but it's okay at this point. Yeah, I mean, it's so sad to think. I guess the question would be, was she still in psychosis possibly? Is that the argument the defense is making?
What we'll do is we'll take a short break at this point. We'll come back. We'll do kind of a preliminary charge conference. We're going to which I know counsel knows, but for everybody else, discuss possible jury instructions, suggestions from counsel. Then we can talk about any logistical issues that we have for tomorrow, and then we'll probably recess at that point. All right, so this will be a short recess, and we'll come back up. Thank you.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is listen to the charge instructions probably on my headphones, and then at some point at least in the chat tomorrow, I'm going to try to, it's supposed to rain on my vacation. So I'm going to try to find a library, but of course we have to be quiet in the library. I don't know if they'll let me live stream loudly, but I'm going to see what I can do. But I want to talk about the charge instructions, because in a case like this, those are going to be important. And the charge instructions obviously mean what the judge will ultimately end up telling the jury at the end, the instructions on the law. So we'll see. And sometimes attorneys want, so there's the model jury instructions, but I'd like to hear exactly what the judge is going to charge them. When I was when I was a assistant DA and civil trial lawyer, the charge instructions were important to know ahead of time, because what we would do is we would write our closing arguments based on what the judge was going to charge the jury. We sort of weave in you will hear the His Honor explain blah, 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 blah. So that was a strategy we would use as lawyers to make it appear that, we're on the side of the judge. Our side is what the judge will tell you the law is all about. Yeah. So that's the point there. Anyway, I hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your day, and I am going to be heading off on my little vacation. So I will talk to you all very soon. Hopefully they don't, if it figures the day that I'm busiest, which is tomorrow, they're going to go all day. It figures. Anyway, I'll be around, and the stream will be up and running. And thank you again for being a great chat. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'm so glad that you guys are all joining me for this really spectacular, emotional trial that makes us think. Really, there are two sides to this. And I think it's one of the most fascinating gray area cases that I've covered. And with that note, I am going to go ahead and end the stream and hope you guys all have a lovely day. All right. Bye-bye.